Oh, hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in this morning. We've got so much to cover. I do want to get to this bill. It shocked me. I guess they want to force you to vote here in the state of Illinois. It's a bill. It's seeking for Illinois to join Australia and 24 other countries in what they call compulsory voting practices. Okay, so this is where you are forced to vote. Now, this is what the state legislature does. They do this slippery slope thing where they take an inch and then they go a mile the next legislative session. So last legislative session, it was the talk of the town, right? It was the automatic voter registration. So you go to the DMV, they streamlined that, or they're trying to streamline that, where it's a back end process where you have to really jump through hoops. So you go to the DMV to renew your license, okay? You have got to jump through hoops if you want to not be registered to vote. Okay, that's the way it currently is in the state of Illinois. You've got to try to opt out of being automatically registered to vote if you renew your license, or if you go get a driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote. So if you're 21, or if you're 16, so obviously you can get your license at 16, but you will be automatically registered to vote if you're 18 and get your license. Okay, so you get to, so that is the law in the state of Illinois. So it's automatic voter registration when you go and renew your driver's license. Okay, so now, that was last year. Now, this year, what they want to do is make it mandatory for you to vote and treat voting as if it is a civic duty. So what is a civic duty? Think of jury duty. Okay. Now, right now, the bill doesn't seek any kind of penalties if you don't vote. But next year, you can guarantee there's probably going to be some sort of fee if you don't vote. This is just ridiculous. And Democrats are the ones that are all about voting rights. As much as I have a right to not vote, or as much as I have a right to vote, I have a right to not vote. Okay. I question the constitutionality of compulsory voting practices. And I don't know if we really want to model ourselves after Australia, who locked people up in concentration camps if they had COVID-19 and imprisoned them because they had the sniffles. Okay. So I don't know if we necessarily want to be like Australia in that sense. I also want to talk about Illinois Republicans urging Democrats. This is a story at Center Square. Illinois Republicans urging Democrats to stop illegal immigration with a couple of bills. I also want to get to a District 87 DEI training video where they used cartoon drawings to explain the differences between equality and equity. Really what it is, it's the difference between capitalism and socialism. And staff was required to watch. They're trying to indoctrinate their staff. They're trying to indoctrinate their students and get them to subscribe to this whole equity thing, which really is just a fancy word for socialism, communism. Okay, so we're going to get to all of that. But first, I do want to talk a little bit about the Bloomington Water Director. Yesterday, I talked about this little discrepancy I saw on blnnews.com. You guys can go check it out. There was on their agenda a discrepancy here, or it raised my eyebrows, and I guess this is their reason why. And when I watched the council meeting yesterday, I didn't really catch it. I was like, did he give a reason why it's a little bit higher? So let me take you back. February 24th, they approved, I think it was $62,000, somewhere in that ballpark, $62,500 for this PAC water treatment. Okay, PAC is the powder activated carbon to treat the water. Bloomington water sucks. And I gave you the example yesterday, the Drano down the sink. Really what should be happening is we should have conversations about a permanent fix to the water issue. You should model yourself after, other central Illinois municipalities who have transitioned off of things like lake source water, and they've drilled wells under the aquifer. I thought we did in Bloomington. I think there were a couple of wells under an aquifer, but they didn't transition off of this lake source water. We should stop relying on the lake source water. It's not sustainable. Okay, if you go without rain or wind or rain or snow for a few months. It's not a sustainable model. So you need to permanently fix it. You need to get down at the bottom of the sink and replace the piping. Okay, stop pouring Drano down the sink because it's going to get costly after some time. Throwing band-aids on this problem. Okay, so anyway, this is the PAC thing that 20 years ago they took offline, by the way, treating the water with the powder activated carbon, because Democrats and everybody after 20 years, everybody who served on the council, mayors, they've had their chance to treat the water with the PAC system, but it went offline and they never brought it back. They didn't prioritize basic infrastructure. They probably didn't even know it was offline, okay? So the February 24th meeting, it was $2,000 per ton, okay? And then I was telling you about this agenda with the Bloomington City at the special meeting a couple of nights ago, where they priced it out differently. It's $1.42 per pound. And then you do your calculations, it winds up being like $2,840 per ton. So, previous month you paid less for the PAC treatment. Now this company is charging you $840 more per ton. Why is that? Well, the water director tried to get up and I explain it, I suppose. And they were, why should the council approve the higher price, a higher price than it was a month ago? And it just kind of was confusing. And as BLN News puts it, this guy doesn't seem to be speaking English, plain English. Give me English. Tell me in layman's terms, right? She on BLN News, Diane Benjamin, she says the water director needs a few lessons on speaking English to people paying his bills. So this is really confusing. I still don't understand quite the reason why they had to pay the $840 more. Here we go. Oh.
More detail, some confusion maybe out there in the internet ecosphere. Why we had 2,000 a ton on an earlier resolution instead of per pound.
Mm-hmm.
What we bid in this coming fiscal year was in anticipation of the PAC silo. So that is a project that we had proposed in next fiscal year's budget, along with the bulk PAC material that shows up in a semi and is blown into that silo. That's why it was bid and quoted on a per ton price. We are engaging that successful bidder, who also supplies us and has supplied us for a number of years the GAC, which is the carbon that caps our filter beds at the plant. So what we are ordering is a smaller individual sack. 2,000 pounds, I guess, doesn't really sound that small, since they're 1 ton, but you can see our first round, we did order 2,000 pound super sacks. This round, and moving ahead while we're doing manual feed on the temporary system, we would look still for 1,000 pound super sacks. So there is a slight increase per pound when you have that in that bag form. The bags come to us and they're disposed at the end of it. But these are units that are handled by a forklift for a ton capacity rating. So it's not just a standard disposable throwaway 50-pound bag like we used to get 30 plus years ago.
Okay, so something I just don't understand. And as BLN News puts it, was he speaking English? Okay, I need an interpreter. He said the price per pound is obviously slightly higher. Only government obviously would think that 42 cents a pound is slightly. That's $840 more per ton. And I've got a question. It was 62,500 in February, okay, and it was under a bid for the entire next fiscal year. The 62,500 was under a bid for the entire next fiscal year, but the 557,000 about that was approved just a couple of days ago wasn't. I'm confused. I'm totally confused. And I think his explanation here was because there was different sized bags or something like that. But it was confusing. And, people want to know where their money is being spent because, and here's the thing, I don't think people would be upset about, having to spend more if they're going to have quality water. Okay. But you understand the frustration from the Bloomington normal or from the Bloomington residents who are drinking this crappy water. You have to understand their frustration. We wouldn't even be in this position if it had not been for failed leadership for 20 years, for decades at this point, because 20 years ago, they took off around 20 years ago, they took the PAC system offline. They should have never taken it offline. Why would you stop treating the water? They said it was to reduce costs. Reduce costs for what? So you could build the downtown Bloomington streetscape, so you could expand the Bloomington Public Library. Like what? Why would you reduce the cost of treating water? This is basic infrastructure. This is why we put you in those positions and put you in those chairs. We wouldn't be in this position right now where we have to pay companies to treat the water if we were treating the water already. And it feels like a Band-Aid, like I said, and it's like covering a bullet wound with a Band-Aid. It's like the lake source water is obviously not working, and they've even admitted, the city, that this happens from time to time when the lakes get low. Okay, well, let's fix the problem. Let's transition off of that lake source water and let's do something more sustainable, like digging wells. I just don't, using groundwater that goes through a natural filtration process. You don't have to spend all this money on all kinds of filtration systems. Yeah, you still probably would have to treat the water if you transition to like wells or something like that. But I got to take a quick break. I wanted to bring that up this morning. There's so much that I got to get to this morning. House Bill 2718, this is going to force people by law to cast a ballot, according to an election integrity advocate. And I mean, the way I read the bill, it does force people to vote, but like it doesn't force you in the sense that there are any penalties. So it just says like you're obligated to vote as an Illinois resident. And Australia has this. It's called compulsory voting. And forced voting. Really, that's what it is. Like it is your civic duty to go vote. I don't like that. You have a right to not vote. You have a right to abstain. You have a right to sit out in elections, and just as much as you have a right to vote. Okay, and I understand everybody wants a high voter turnout. Everybody wants people's voices to be heard. But here's the thing: that needs to be of your own free will, because when you force people to vote, that kind of defeats the purpose of democracy. It really does. This is the kind of stuff that you'd see from Xi Jinping, the dictator, where he forces his citizenry to go vote for him. I gotta go take a break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. We'll be right back. Hey, good morning. Go ahead and smash that like button. Again, why are these staff members at District 87 not walking out? Yeah, I have no idea. We are going to get to this video. It's very it's bizarre. A training video, a DEI training video, especially when I'm a grown adult. Like you'd imagine that all of these teachers are grown adults and they're showing them cartoons about equality versus equity. And clearly this is just capitalism versus socialism. America, our values, we were built on the idea that you have equal opportunity. Okay. Not give people handouts so that way we're all equal. Okay. It's called equal opportunity. And they showed the District 87, required the District 87 teachers to watch this video, apparently. And like, I would totally walk out just because they're showing me cartoons. Like, I am a grown adult. I don't need DEI training. I don't know why I have to be taught how inherently evil I am because I'm white, right? I would just could you imagine being an adult and having to sit through a DEI training video? And I'm sure many of you have, because your jobs, your positions. HR might make you watch a DEI training video, and that really sucks for you. I've never really had to sit through one of those. I'm blessed in that sense. I did have to kind of deal with DEI stuff at the indoctrination campus, ISU, um, where I was constantly told that, because I was white, I was, had a leg up over, my colleagues, my peers, which I didn't quite understand. But it's all about equal opportunity. That's what this country is all about. Providing somebody the opportunity and not taking those opportunities away. Now, if you take opportunities away from people, that's unfair. It sets them up for failure, and you want people to fail. And you're doing that because you want to uplift others. So that is not something we should be teaching our children. District 87, they used this cartoon video to explain equality, equity. I thought it was shocking. We are going to be getting to quite a few things this morning. I do want to talk about how, Republicans, which this legislation is probably going to go nowhere, where they're going to repeal the Trust Act. I don't think, and I've said this multiple times before, in Illinois, I really don't think that the Trust Act really pertains to these deportations and law enforcement, working with federal authorities on deportations. I don't think that the Trust Act prohibits them because deportations, that's a federal order that you obtain through, the courts. Okay, so you have to go get a deportation order and you have to make your case for a deportation order. Okay, the prosecutor has to, just like a search warrant, right? A legal search warrant. A prosecutor has to go and, get the judge to approve a search warrant. So we've got legal deportation orders that were obtained, and you have to prove that this person is in fact criminal and is illegal. The way I interpret the Trust Act is that the Trust Act is really for like civil issues. And I bring up this example a lot of the time. So say Maria is working at Rivian and she's here on a work visa. But as a requirement to keep her work visa and her temporary status, she has to continue working at Rivian. Say she gets fired from Rivian and doesn't inform immigration authorities that she got fired. Okay. Now they have to prove that she got fired. They have to prove that she has violated the agreements of her work visa. That's federal authorities in order to obtain a deportation order. Okay. So coming to normal Illinois, right? The federal authorities, if they came, ICE came, and they said, "Hey, we're wanting to question Maria, who worked at Rivian. We want to see if she's still working at Rivian. Could you guys go grab her, or can you conduct an interview with her to see if she has?" And that's what the federal authorities might try to do is they don't want to come all the way to normal. Okay, so they'll buzz the local law enforcement and they'll say, "Hey, can you kind of do our homework for us so we can obtain a deportation order?" Okay, and that is what I think the Trust Act is all about. It's more of like, are people violating their work visas? That's the work of ICE, obviously, Immigration Customs Enforcement. They have to figure out, if people are actually in violation of these work visa agreements, their student visa agreements, their green cards, if their green cards are valid, and if they are actually married to somebody and it's not a sham marriage. Okay. That's what that is all about. And local law enforcement should not be tapped to do that kind of work. Why? Because their resources should be to the community. Okay, we already have federal authorities who are their whole job is to enforce immigration. It shouldn't be the job of local law enforcement to enforce immigration in that sense. But if they already have a deportation order, that's just enforcing the law, like criminal. Okay, so the Trust Act. At that point, you are a criminal if you've already obtained a deportation order, a legal deportation order. And you're just kind of complying with federal law and this legal order, a deportation order. Okay. So the Trust Act doesn't have anything to do with that. And I don't know why Republicans get hung up on this Trust Act thing, because if you really look through it, and this is the way I interpret it. It really doesn't prohibit law enforcement from doing their jobs and carrying out a deportation order. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Yes, opponent of HB 2718. This is a bill that forces you to vote. It recognizes voting as a civic duty, similar to jury duty, and we would be joining Australia and 24 other countries in this compulsory voting practice, which it's so authoritarian. It's so weird, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I just think that it's absolutely crazy to try to force people into voting. Yeah, just as much as you have a right to vote, you have a right not to vote. Okay, so there's a lot of problems with this because this is a slippery slope. Right now, the bill as it looks, it doesn't seem that there's penalties. So say you're voting in 2026. Okay, if this were to pass and become law, say you're voting in 2026, you're not going to get fined like 50, $100 or anything like that if you don't go vote. Now, this is a slippery slope. They could penalize you. Okay, this is what Carol Davis, election integrity advocate, says. Because if they get this passed, they're going to say, oh, gee, all of a sudden, yeah, we're going to fine you $50 if you don't vote. We're going to fine you $100 if you don't vote. Plus, it provides that an eligible citizen who casts a blank ballot. Okay, so that's what the phraseology of this bill says, that an eligible citizen, like say you don't want to vote for anybody, you have to still cast a ballot, okay, in compulsory voting. And this is how other countries do it. You actually check a box and you say, I'm not selecting any candidates for this election cycle. Here's my ballot. Now, what those countries do, they have you check a box. What Illinois is trying to do with this bill, it looks like, they're saying, hey, eligible citizens who can vote, and, we want you to participate in this compulsory voting. We want you to cast a blank ballot, no check mark, no nothing. And we want you to send that back in to fulfill the requirement of voting. Okay. So the whole state, everybody's going to be sending back and forth blank ballots. Okay. Now, last spring, I really like what John Curran had said. He's the Senate Minority Leader, Republican. Last year, he said, quote, from the center square, people exercise their vote, but people have the right to exercise their vote, but people also have the right to not vote or to not register to vote. Now, he said this last spring when debating legislation concerning Illinois' automatic voter registration policies. Okay, when you go to the DMV, you're automatically registered to vote. And, the legislation says more than 24 countries, most notably Australia, treat voting as a civic duty similar to jury duty. What? Okay. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be like Australia. Okay. There's a reason why I live in the United States of America. It's because of our elections and the way we hold them. Davis said countries that implement this compulsory voting practice, they have voters actually check a box. Now, this bill doesn't say voters have to check a box on the ballot that says I'm not voting this year. Okay. So you just send a blank ballot back. And I don't know about you, but that is just ripe. That is ripe for fraud and nefarious activity, because if you're sending back and forth blank ballots, there is you have a nefarious actor. Oh, this is a blank ballot just for me, and I'll cast it in this person's name. And there are people out there that exist, okay, who do nefarious things. Okay, nefarious actors who are trying to do nefarious things. Okay, so this is State Representative Maurice Westbills. He's Democrat. Obviously, this is in the Ethics Elections Committee. I don't know how far this is going to go. It's concerning that there's movement on this. I can't believe that somebody actually drafted this and this was assigned. Proponents say that compulsory voting would combat low voter turnout. Okay, yes, low voter turnout might suck, but like this is just so ridiculous. we don't want ignorant voters. We don't want people just casting blank ballots. And we want people to vote who are educated and who take time and effort to be a part of that process, right? Why are we forcing people who don't want to be a part of that process? This is what the bill says. While precise data doesn't exist, there are fewer than 100 or 10 million citizens who are eligible to vote in Illinois. Of those eligible voters, approximately 81 million, 8.1, sorry, 10 million, approximately 8.1 million are registered to vote, and approximately 5.7 million cast a ballot in the 2024 general election. Okay, so they're trying to combat low voter turnout with this. Davis said that Illinois' current voluntary system, with our current voluntary system, there are too many uninformed and ignorant voters casting ballot. And of course, ignorance can be fixed with education, but it takes time. It takes effort to be a voter, to be a citizen. And, when you're forcing people, I could definitely see if penalties are to be introduced at a later date, which I think that they will be, because that's just how the legislature works. Last year, it was automatic voter registration. This year, it's compulsory voting. Okay, so next year, it's going to be fees for not voting. And you see the trend here? They're just chipping away at your rights every single year. Okay, and they're going to probably implement some sort of like $100 fine. I could see it. If you don't participate in voting, you'll be issued $100 fine. Now, I could definitely see somebody saying, I don't really want to take the time to go vote. I don't know what I'm doing. Hey, buddy, could you vote for me so I don't have to pay the $100 fine? I'll pay you $10, to cast my ballot for me so I don't have to pay the $100 fine. I could definitely see where that becomes an issue, where you have people paying others. I mean, right now in our current voting system, and it's so disappointing every single time. And I don't mind helping individuals, but sometimes people will message me during election season and they'll just say, Kat, who do I vote for? And, I really am saddened when people text me that, like, not who do I vote for, or tell me who to vote for. People actually beg me to tell them who to vote for. And I get it. You don't have time, but you have to make time if you want to be a voter, and you got to put the effort in, right? And you got to educate yourself. Once you do that, you don't vote Democrat, by the way. So that's why this is pushed by Democrats. They are hoping for those ignorant voters, and I hate to say it, but ignorant doesn't mean stupid. Ignorant just means lack of knowledge, and that can be fixed by education. And they're hoping for those uninformed voters to cast ballots, because they know that if they're informed, they will be casting ballots for Republicans or conservative candidates, because that is what always works. I'm sorry, conservative values work. Capitalism works. America is great because of those principles, because of our American values. So the bill doesn't currently impose penalties, like I said, but this is really, really problematic, in my opinion. Compulsory voting. I mean, what's next? Are we gonna just force people to vote for one candidate? It's shocking to me. This is stuff that you'd see in Xi Jinping's communist China. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Compulsory voting. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be forced to vote. I do want to play this. This was from the Bloomington City Council meeting. I'll play it for you guys. This guy's not very happy with the current mayor. He made public comment at the City of Bloomington special meeting on March 17th, just a couple of days ago. Take a listen.
Good evening. I won't take too much of the council's time. I just wanted, my comment tonight is about the lack of a mayor pro tem. So on March 10th that this was supposed to be under discussion and for a potential decision. I know that Molly Ward has led a distinguished career on the council, and not sure why she hasn't been discussed or assigned at this point. While this has been listed, it has not been decided upon, and it concerns me that this mayor continues to be indecisive and unwilling to make difficult decisions and has not put forward the mayor pro tem. It is not uncommon for this mayor to be indecisive, as I have personal experience. In the fall of 2021, I was interviewed by the mayor and told on a Friday morning that coming Monday, I'd be put forward for a vote on Ward 6 replacement for Jen Carrillo, the council member that had moved out of the ward. 6 hours later, I received a voicemail from the same mayor saying he needed to think about it longer. I then went through another series of meetings and interviews. However, at that point, my name was already known as having been pulled back, which was a little bit embarrassing for me. We need a new mayor that we can trust to make difficult decisions and bring the council together. The current mayor is not that person. Thank you.
Okay, so clearly Molly Ward, he wants Molly Ward to be the pro tem. He's definitely on the left. Okay, so most likely he's voting for Cody Hendricks. But that tells me a lot about the current political landscape. Is Mboka in this election, which is not that far away, folks, is he going to get that left vote? And I don't know. Like, obviously, the extreme left is going to be voting for Cody Hendricks, but maybe like a little left of center, you would imagine that they'd go for the more moderate choice in Mboka Mwambwe. But it appears here that I don't know. I think that he might not get the left of center vote, the left vote, and yeah, for somebody that to feel that strongly about him and take to public comment, indecisive, and calling the mayor indecisive. I think that Cody Hendricks, I think that Mboka Mwambwe, they both have served on a council that failed to recognize that the water was not being treated, okay, and was no longer being treated. Like 20 years ago, they took the PAC system offline and nobody caught that, and we weren't treating the water for all these years with the PAC. And now we're like, flying by the seam of our pants here and paying for companies to treat the water, with all these thousands and thousands of dollars, $2,000 a pound last month. Now it's 2,840 this month, and maybe that stuff happens with these companies. Maybe they need, more or bigger bags or whatever the cause or the reason was why they needed to increase the price of the powder activated carbon treatment to the 2,840 per ton number. And that's fine, whatever. I wouldn't be upset about it, but they're still talking about the Bloomington downtown streetscape. We had this mayor expand the library to the tune of millions of dollars. Let me look at the Bloomington library expansion numbers. $25.4 million. Oh, my goodness, that's insane. $25 million to expand a library. And, this might hurt and it might, hit you in your gut a little bit. But how relevant are libraries at this point in a digital age? I'm not against them. And if you have the extra money, do it. But clearly they don't have the extra money because they've kept the PAC system, the water treatment, the basic infrastructure that you need. It's not a want, it's a need. That's what Bloomington's problem is. They want all these extra things and they don't have the money for these extra things. Okay. I'm pretty sure that they're in a deficit. Hold on. Or at least there was talk of a deficit. Yeah, it was a $5 million budget deficit. Yeah. We're talking about deficits here. $5.7 million budget deficit, by the way. That was February 17th, 2025. They're looking at that. Okay, so they really don't have money for, what was it, $24 million, I said, for a public library that I'd be curious to see how did they evaluate how many patrons are going to the library? And like, is it increasing or is it decreasing from the last 10 years? Okay. So yeah, the decisions just seem sporadic and not logical. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in this morning. Yes, let's get to a few other stories this morning. Illinois Republicans, they are urging their colleagues, Democrats, to join them in stopping illegal immigration. Okay. And sometimes these things I roll my eyes. I love the Republican lawmakers, their goals here, and I think that they've got good goals. And they've introduced packages of legislation that would repeal the Trust Act. And I've talked about the Trust Act before. I don't think that you really need to repeal it. I just think that you need to read it for what it is and then just have local law enforcement and work with the federal authorities on carrying out these deportation orders. And local law enforcement officers who are hiding really behind this Trust Act and saying that they can't enforce legal deportation orders, I think that they're wrong. I really do, because here's the thing, the Trust Act, and I'm going to explain it as the way I interpret it, and maybe we need, this to be fought out in the courts, obviously, and somebody much more prominent than me to interpret the legislation. But the Trust Act, from the way I interpret it, say Maria works at Rivian and she is on a work visa, okay? Now, it is the job of federal authorities to ensure that she is in compliance with that work visa agreement. Okay, if you're here on temporary status, we talked about the fellow from the Columbia University having his green card revoked. Clearly, he was in violation of this temporary status. There's an agreement. Okay, there's just like we're supposed to be good to foreigners are supposed to be good to us. This is what the Bible tells us. And there's just so many instances where foreigners are treated well, but also the foreigners treat the place in which they're residing. They treat the kings well, the lands, the kings of the lands that they're visiting. Okay, so that's an agreement. The work visas, the green cards, and things like that. Yesterday, we talked about the fellow who violated all of that by terrorizing Jewish students on campuses. But Maria, she has a work visa, okay, and she gets fired from Rivian. So that would violate her work visa agreement with the federal authorities, and it would suspend her temporary status. Now, what local law enforcement is not supposed to be doing, and I agree with this actually, they're not supposed to, federal authorities can't ring up the local law enforcement. Bring. Hey, local law enforcement, we need you to go check out Maria, see if she's going to work every day. We need you to tell her, see if she's going to work. And we need you to figure out if she got fired from Rivian, because we're renewing her work visas, but we want you to kind of do our homework, our legwork for us, okay? We don't want to come down to normal and do it ourselves. That is something that local law enforcement shouldn't be doing. This is, enforcement. This is immigration enforcement in that sense. It's kind of more civil. When you obtain a legal deportation order, it's like obtaining a search warrant. Okay, so it's a legal order, a judge signed off on it, and that deportation order says, hey, this person is a criminal. They are here in the country illegally. We've proven that. We've got it. We've proven that to a judge. The judge has signed off on the deportation order, and we have to deport them out of the country. And then they have a court date, to argue why they shouldn't be deported. Okay, this is how the system works. And local law enforcement, their role, once there's a deportation order, their role should be pretty dang clear. Okay, this is a legal order. I'm going to comply with the federal authorities so that way they can enforce federal law. Okay, so I don't really know why suspending the Trust Act is something that Illinois lawmakers are talking about. I mean, yes, it's a crappy law. It's kind of like the sanctuary state status thing, and it's dumb. But the way I interpret it, you can kind of get around the Trust Act as a local law enforcement officer. Or you don't have to hide behind it in order to enforce legal deportation orders that are signed by judge, right? So I want to play this. This is from Center Square. Illinois Republicans urging Democrats to stop supporting illegal immigrants.
Governor Pritzker and his Democrat allies are unnecessarily putting the safety of Illinois citizens at risk by continuing irresponsible sanctuary state and sanctuary city laws. We lived through the carnage in our cities, crime in our streets, and the drain on our precious resources caused by unchecked illegal immigration during the Biden administration. With President Trump setting a new course on immigration policy, our legislation that would repeal Illinois Trust Act helps to stop the flood of illegal immigrants into Illinois. This would also empower our law enforcement officials to work with federal agents to deport criminal illegal immigrants. The state of Illinois has spent billions giving cash and medical care to people who are in the country illegally. The time for that irresponsible policy to come to an end is right now. We must repeal the Trust Act to end Illinois' irresponsible and dangerous sanctuary state policies. I have filed House Bill 1345 to repeal the Trust Act and stand ready to put my name on any of the bills filed by my colleagues that will move this issue forward. I firmly believe in what Ronald Reagan said years ago, and I think he was correct on it. There is no limit to the amount of good you can do if you don't care who gets the credit. One last note. I would love personally to take care of every person in the world, but my responsibility right now, the people of the state of Illinois.
Okay, so I wanted to play a little clip there. That was Paul Jacobs. He's a state representative. He's along with other Republicans introduced something to repeal the Trust Act. I'm not against repealing the Trust Act. Why? Because people are using the Trust Act as a as kind of like something to hide behind. Law enforcement officers, local law enforcement, not our local law enforcement, but other local law enforcement might use the Trust Act to hide behind not enforcing legal deportation orders. And I mean, that's getting rid of that. That's fine, because at the end of the day, you don't really need the Trust Act. Local law enforcement knows that they shouldn't be, like in the example I gave about Maria and the work visa. Local law enforcement knows that's outside of their jurisdiction. They shouldn't be policing Maria to see if she's going to work or not. That's not really their job. That's the job of federal authorities, the immigration customs enforcement. They're the ones who are supposed to be checking in on those visas. That's outside of their purview, outside of their jurisdiction, okay? And they know that we didn't need the Trust Act to say that. And what the Democrats did by passing the Trust Act, it confuses people. When asked about Pritzker's rhetoric surrounding immigration changing amidst the 2026 gubernatorial race, possibly a 2028 race, presidential race that's been rumored, State Representative C.D. Davidsmeyer, a Republican, said that residents are starting to see a shift in the governor's views, or at least he's talking like he's got a shift in his views, okay? And this might be because he's up for election, okay? Re-election. Pritzker has proposed getting rid of the HBIA. So the HBIA is health benefits for illegal immigrants, okay, for immigrant adults. Really, this is for illegal immigrants. And he's also talked about, Pritzker, getting rid of the violent criminals who are undocumented. Now, it used to be where he didn't really say that kind of stuff, you know, like what he said on CNN's State of the Union interview. He said, quote, "To be clear," this is what Pritzker said, "when it comes to violent criminals who are undocumented and convicted, we don't want them in our state. We want them out of the country." Okay, so I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Hey, good morning. Go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Lisa, we are going to be getting to the District 87. Don't know why the teachers just wouldn't walk out after seeing a cartoon video talking about how, you know, socialism is what you should be teaching your students, and socialism is how you should be going about teaching your students. Because really that's what this is. Equity versus equality. It's really capitalism versus socialism, but they won't say that. They hide behind these fluffy words, and that's what the Democrats are really good at. We're going to get to that video because it's a really weird video. And if I was an adult and forced to watch this, I probably would just get up out of the room and leave, and I would be like, okay, you want me to watch this? That's fine. I'm leaving, and if you're gonna fire me over it, then go ahead. That's probably what I would do if I was a District 87 teacher. I am not. I mean, obviously it's hard because it's your job, it's your salary, you know, on the line here, but I would do whatever it takes to not sit through and watch this video. You guys are going to watch this and you guys are going to scream at the sky, and you are not going to believe the indoctrination, the propaganda that our educators are forced to sit through, and we wonder why the kids are failing. Okay, maybe DEI is the reason why District 87 has a 27% chronically absent rate. Okay, students who are taught Marxism and socialism instead of how to succeed have no reason to value education. They really don't. You need to teach them how to succeed despite their circumstances. Okay, that's what equality, equal opportunity, okay, is all about. Everybody has the opportunity. Now, you might be disabled. You might have a rough go at life. Okay, there might be some hurdles you have to jump through. But that's all part of it, right? Is trying to figure out a solution on your own and not be given a solution that probably isn't all that good for you anyway. And it's going to be very clear in this video, so we're going to get to that. We're also going to get to, what do I want to get to this morning? There's so much I could get to. There's this trans influencer. You guys will like this. This trans influencer, TikTok influencer, he wants to leave the country, and he wants to do it by selling Burt's Bees lip balm. Okay, so he has a Burt's Bee lip balm sponsorship. He, encourages people to buy it in his TikTok shop. And he claims he wants to leave the United States because he wants to obtain constitutional protections by leaving the United States and fleeing the United States, which is so hilarious because there's no such thing as transgenocide. I've already broke down those numbers for you multiple times. The homicides, so I think there was, like, in last year, 30 homicides or so of transgender individuals. You break those down even further. Of those 30 individuals, a lot of them died due to overdoses or due to being killed by pimps. Okay, for some odd reason, transgender, especially youth, young transgender individuals, they enter into these industries. I don't even really want to give validity to it, okay, but I'm going to call it an industry or an occupation, prostitution. They enter into illegal activity, the illegal activity of prostitution, and then they sell their bodies. Okay. This comes with risks. Okay. Obviously, if you have a pimp and you're selling your body and your pimp is taking a cut, it's just naturally not one of those activities that is safe. Okay. Prostitution is not something I would call safe in any sense of the word. Okay. So they get killed by their pimps usually. That is, when you break down the homicide numbers, that is what's killing transgender. And then we don't even want to talk about the suicide rate. Okay. The suicide rate is exorbitant. Okay. Amongst the transgender community. And they're killing themselves off. Why? Because they're being lied to by society, and their deranged feelings are being affirmed, and it's causing severe mental illness because reality does not compute with what's in their head, and they go insane over that, and then they kill themselves, which is truly tragic. The best thing you can do for a trans individual is tell them the truth. Honey, you're a boy. Honey, you're a boy. You're a girl. Woohoo! Yes, if I were to watch one of these videos at District 87, I would get up out of my chair and walk out the door. I'm not kidding you. So I found this on BLN News. This is a great site. You'd have to go watch it. I'll play it for you, and you're going to hear how District 87 required staff during this DEI training to watch it's a cartoon drawing explaining the difference between equity and equality. Really, that's Marxism and capitalism, or socialism and freedom. Okay, this is really what it's all about. Making everyone equal is the goal of equity. And when I watch the video, it shows me just what District 87 is all about. It's about teaching kids to not think with their noggins and to expect and to be entitled to a solution that probably isn't going to be all that helpful to them anyway. So we'll play the video when I come back. And you are just going to be shocked by this. And I want to ramble off some statistics here, okay? DEI should not be the focus of District 87. It shouldn't be the focus of any school district. DEI has probably led to a graduation rate 77%. Like I said, it's probably even lower than that because we've weakened the standards for graduation here in the state. District 87 is teaching teachers to set up kids for failure, really, by indoctrinating teachers with this ideology, this Marxist ideology. They spend $17,000 per student. Despite that, the kids can't read at grade level. They can't do math at grade level at District 87. District 87 is below state standards everywhere. They also have a 27% chronic absentee rate, so the kids aren't going to school. Of course, the kids don't want to go to school. You want to know why? Because when they're going to school, they're being taught Marxism. They're fed an ideology that is very counter to what kids want to do. Marxism is this idea that they can't be free thinkers. They can't come up with the solution on their own, that somebody has to give them the solution in order to get them to an equal status of their counterparts. And kids naturally want to figure things out for themselves. Kids are naturally capitalist. I like that. They just really are. They want to be creative. They want to figure things out for themselves. And they don't want anybody really telling them what to do. Okay, if you've got kids, so the kids really deserve better. No wonder the kids don't want to go to school. It's because they see no value in education there. They don't, because if they go there and they're taught that, hey, don't think for yourself, don't come up with solutions for yourself. You are a victim and you need the solution provided for you. If that's the mentality and if that's the ideology being fed to them, they are going to reject it. Okay, the kids deserve better. They definitely don't need more money. It won't go towards education. It's going to go towards indoctrination, and it'll be evident when you watch this video with me. On the other side, I do want to talk a little bit about this trans influencer who uses they them pronouns. He's moving out of Trump's America, and how is he going to do it? Well, he's going to sell a lot of lip balm. It's chapstick. He's going to sell some Burt's Bees chapsticks. And try to get a commission off of selling those on TikTok Shop. And then he's going to take that money and go to somewhere with constitutional protections for trans people. Everywhere else in the country, most everywhere else except the European countries, they're not going to treat trans people nicely. Okay, the United States probably, because the rights that we have here are way more than any other country. You don't have freedom of speech in places like the UK. And he wants to move this trans influencer. So I'm going to get to that. There's so much I got to get to this morning. So smash that like button on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Find me there and subscribe. I'll be right back. You're listening to Cities 92.9. Okay, so we're going to get this video up and rolling. Here we go. Oh, this is it. Now it's 4 minutes long. I don't think I'm going to watch the full 4 minutes. It's annoying. Maybe I'll play it for you guys now, and then we'll play a little bit of it for our radio friends when we come back. But smash the like button, subscribe. Can you do that for me? Thank you.
Before we can talk about equity versus equality, I want to first define diversity. At Inclusive Communities, we like to say diversity in its simplest definition means differences. We all have differences, from our glasses to our weight to how much money we have. That is diversity, and no matter how much people say it's hard to find diversity, that's not true. Diversity exists. It's about taking the time to acknowledge its existence and work to ensure action is taken to embrace these differences, not alienate them. Equality is often equated to fairness and sameness, and is based in the misconception that we all have the same needs and the same solution will work for everyone. Equity is based in access and opportunity, with the understanding that we each start with different advantages and disadvantages, and thus have different needs to attain access and opportunity. To understand equity, we have to compare it to equality. Now, I love this equity versus equality graphic as it's the best explanation of the difference between the two. On the equality side, you see that we've got three individuals, our tall guy, our short girl, and our friend in the wheelchair. And you see that they're all trying to watch this baseball game, but there's this fence. With equality, they've each been given a box to use to be able to see the game. But obviously that's not working because our tall friend is now super tall and sees very clearly over the fence, while our short girl can just barely see, and she's still kind of on her tiptoes and struggling to see the game, while the person in the wheelchair can't see at all and they can't even get on the box. On the equity side of this picture, you can see that now we've given each individual exactly what they need to be able to see the game. The person in the wheelchair has a ramp so they can clearly get to the top and see the full game. The shorter girl has two boxes, which is what she needed to comfortably be able to see, and the tall person has no boxes at all because they didn't need the extra assistance in the first place.
Okay. So we're gonna wind up playing that, a little bit of that, for our radio friends as well, coming up here in just a little bit. But to break this down, what we're teaching these kids is, hey, don't think of a solution for yourself. Okay, if you can't see past that fence, don't think of it for yourself. Know that you are entitled to boxes. Okay, and know that you're entitled to the solution. Um, and I like how BLN News puts it here, where the kids, well, why don't they just move around the fence or try to find some place where there's not that high of a fence? Why don't they just pay to get into the stadium and watch the game? The scenarios here are endless for these kids to try to come up with a solution to their problem. We're teaching kids that the solutions to their problems will be handed to them. And sometimes those solutions aren't going to be necessarily good solutions. For example, in that graphic, you'd see the kid, the wheelchair kid. He's up on the ramp, a very tall ramp, and then the girl, she's got two boxes to stand on. Most likely, what's going to wind up happening is the girl is going to fall off those boxes because they're stacked. And that's not the way the boxes are supposed to be stacked. And the kid is probably going to wind up rolling down the ramp, backwards down the ramp. Okay, so we're teaching our kids to not think through their problems. And that is not something that I am, at least, and maybe you don't want for your kids. And really, we need school choice here in the state. Education isn't the goal, obviously, of public education. The goal of public education is to get kids to not think through their problems and to teach them that they're entitled to solutions, and solutions that somebody else gives them. Okay. And even if those solutions are not necessarily great solutions, and they could even be dangerous. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that here coming up. Coming up, we are going to be talking also about this trans TikToker influencer. I think that he's hilarious. You guys will get a kick out of him. It'll be a nice little pick me up. Then we might get to AOC. She's making this ludicrous claim that Tom Homan, the border czar, is making the border less safe. Okay, so we're gonna get to all of that. Did you guys see the JFK files have been released, and that JFK actually came out and called Joe Biden a traitor? That was pretty funny. So we're gonna get to that here in just a second. Hey, welcome to the Red Kingdom. You're listening to Conservative Cat 7:05 a.m. Wind advisory starts soon. Wind advisory. So it's going to be a little windy today. Might not want to go out and burn some leaves. Okay, so be careful out there. I do want to get to this. Before we took the break, I was telling you about District 87 in this DEI training video. Now, last week I told you a little bit about the privilege walks. They do these privilege walks where they line up the teachers and then they say, "Are you white?" Then you take a step forward. "Are you straight? Are you a male? Are you Christian?" And they'll have you take steps forward. And then at the end, you're kind of embarrassed or you're shamed in front of your boss or in front of your coworkers. That's how these privilege walks kind of work. And I told you that that's not very progressive. It's actually regressive because those are kind of practices that happened in the 1800s, where people would do public shamings and they would do, walks, public shaming walks. They'd walk around town square, naked, or they'd walk around town square and people would throw things at them. Okay, so it's truly sad that District 87 is doing these DEI trainings, and this is just another one from BLN News. They've got the video out there. I'm going to play a little bit of it. It's cartoon drawings that explain the differences between equality and equity, i.e., socialism versus capitalism, communism versus capitalism, Marxism versus capitalism, whatever you want to call it. Making everyone equal is the goal of equity, okay? It's not about equal opportunity. It's about making everyone equal. And, I watched this video and I can't help but feel like the kids are being taught this kind of stuff and they're being taught that they can't come up with their own solutions and that they're entitled to their solutions. And to the solutions given to them. Okay. And they're not thinking how to, hey, I have a problem. How am I going to remedy this problem myself? They're not being taught to think, okay, how to think through their problems. They're being taught that they are entitled to solutions that somebody else dreamed up for them. And sometimes those solutions are very dangerous. So take a look at this video. You guys can watch it and I'll explain it here. For you, take a listen.
Equity versus equality, I want to first define diversity. At Inclusive Communities, we like to say diversity in its simplest definition means differences. We all have differences, from our glasses to our weight to how much money we have. That is diversity, and no matter how much people say it's hard to find diversity, that's not true. Diversity exists. It's about taking the time to acknowledge its existence and work to ensure action is taken to embrace these differences, not alienate them. Equality is often equated to fairness and sameness, and is based in the misconception that we all have the same needs and the same solution will work for everyone. Equity is based in access and opportunity, with the understanding that we each start with different advantages and disadvantages, and thus have different needs to attain access and opportunity. To understand equity, we have to compare it to equality. Now, I love this equity versus equality graphic, as it's the best explanation of the difference between the two. On the equality side, you see that we've got three individuals, our tall guy, our short girl, and our friend in the wheelchair. And you see that they're all trying to watch this baseball game, but there's this fence. With equality, they've each been given a box to use to be able to see the game. But obviously that's not working, because our tall friend is now super tall and sees very clearly over the fence, while our short girl can just barely see, and she's still kind of on her tiptoes and struggling to see the game, while the person in the wheelchair can't see at all and they can't even get on the box. On the equity side of this picture, you can see that now we've given each individual exactly what they need to be able to see the game. The person in the wheelchair has a ramp, so they can clearly get to the top and see the full game. The shorter girl has two boxes, which is what she needed to comfortably be able to see, and the tall person has no boxes at all because they didn't need the extra assistance in the first place.
Okay. So, this is ridiculous. You got three kids watching a baseball game over a high fence, and it claims that this is equality. The tall kid didn't need a box to see over the fence, and the short girl can barely see over it. They're all given the same boxes, and then the kid in the wheelchair obviously can't get up onto the box. Okay, so Then the tall kid got his box taken away. Okay, and the short girl got 2 boxes, and the kid in the wheelchair got this huge ramp to go up and watch the game over the high fence. This is so ridiculous, okay? Because these solutions that they might be providing kids, they're not teaching kids to think through their own problems, okay? They're giving these kids the solutions, and sometimes those solutions are dangerous. For example, the kid in the wheelchair, he might roll back down the ramp. For example, the girl on the 2 boxes, she might fall off those boxes. And I just don't know why we're not teaching kids to think through their own problems, and we're providing them solutions that might not be solutions that they would have come up with. And they would, say you learn, you come up with a solution, it's not really the greatest solution. Then you can kind of, say she came up with, oh, I got to go find another box, and I got to put another box up here to go see. And then she falls up, and then she's like, oh, I messed up. That's a dumb solution. I should have, maybe paid to go in to go see the games. Okay. Why didn't the kids move around the fence? Who put the fence up? Maybe you should go talk to the school district about the fence and say, hey, I think that it's only fair that you bring down the high fence so we can see the game. Or maybe they should purchase tickets to go inside of the stadium. It looks like there's bleachers in these graphics to go inside the stadium and watch the game. Okay, maybe the fence is there for a reason, and to keep them from catching a foul ball to the face or something, and they should go into the stands and watch the game. Like the situations and scenarios here are endless, and what District 87 is doing is they're teaching their teachers, so therefore the teachers are teaching the kids that you shouldn't think for yourself. You shouldn't think outside the box. You shouldn't think how do I solve a problem? I'm in a problem right now. And yes, you might be in a wheelchair. Yes, you might be shorter than somebody else, and it might hold you back from doing, or going about your solutions differently. But you shouldn't be prohibited really from going about those solutions and, taking the risks and figuring out the problem for yourself. Okay. Parents deserve school choice. Your teachers are forced to watch this kind of stuff at District 87. And really what this is, you can call it equality versus equity all you want. Really what this is, it's Marxism versus capitalism. And we live in a capitalistic country, okay, where we believe in equal opportunity, where everybody has where the government doesn't stop you from going about your solutions, your own solutions, and your own creative solutions. Okay, so District 87, I want to ramble off some stats here. They spend $17,000 per student, graduation rate 77%, chronic absenteeism rate of 27%. Maybe DEI is contributing to that absenteeism rate, because if I was a student and I was being taught this nonsense, I wouldn't go. Okay, because there is no value in this type of education. Naturally, kids are capitalists. I'm going to be honest with you, because naturally human beings are capitalists. You want to come up with a solution for yourself. You're an independent thinker. You have freedom, okay, and you want to come up with a solution. You don't want to be given a solution. You want to come up with it for yourself. So obviously District 87, they don't need more money because they're requiring their teachers to sit through videos like this. And if we're, spending our tax dollars on all of them being there, and, I'm sure Sherry Thomas and District 87's DEI director or whatever, they're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to facilitate these DEI trainings. And I think it's a waste of money. I really do. All right, I got to take, let's get to the trans influencer. I'm going to get to him because he's kind of hilarious. So he's a transgender influencer, and he wants to leave the United States. Why? Because he's claiming that the United States doesn't have constitutional protections for trans influencers or transgenders. Now, this is a clip of a trans influencer, and he's making his rounds on social media this morning because he's leaving the country. And how does he plan to leave the country and pay to leave the country? Well, he's going to sell Burt's Bees chapstick, okay, lip treatment on the TikTok shop. Okay, so let's take a listen. Here we go.
I'm leaving the country, and I could use a little help. As you might imagine, being a trans woman, I'm not super excited about the direction this country is headed. I live in an area that is still relatively safe for trans people, but I'd rather not be here if and when that stops being the case. So I'm leaving by the end of the year with my fiance to live in a place that has more constitutional protections for people like me.
Okay. So he talks about how it's expensive to leave the country, and he's got a solution for that. And of course, that's TikTok. So take a listen.
Luckily, TikTok, I guess, saw what I've been doing on this page and decided, you know what? This creator looks like somebody who could shill our products from the TikTok shop. In the past, this is not something I would have ever considered, but recently I actually started buying things on the TikTok shop. And as it turns out, you can actually get things for a really good deal that you might already be buying elsewhere. The benefit here is that if you click a link on a creator's video to purchase that product, that creator actually earns a commission on that sale. And that's where this overnight lip treatment from Burt's Bees comes in. Now, I didn't buy this on the TikTok shop. My fiance actually gave this to me as a gift because she knows that I have chronically chapped lips. Well, I've been using this for the last few nights and the lips aren't perfect, but I don't remember the last time I went multiple days without like my lips being so chapped that there was like skin flaking off. It's gross. Anyway, this is Burt's Bees overnight lip treatment for dry lips with essential ceramides. It is peppermint flavor. I'm gonna put it on right now because I'm getting ready for bed.
Oh. Ugh.
It feels amazing on the lips. It tastes amazing on the lips. So again, I did not buy this on TikTok shop, but it is available on the TikTok shop. If you click the link in my video to buy this or any other products in my product showcase, apparently I earn a commission on that. And every penny that I earn gets me closer and closer to my goal of getting the heck out of Dodge. Anyway, that's the pitch. Apparently I'm able to do TikTok shop videos now. That's what I'm going to be doing.
I'm sorry. I wasted your time. I don't want to waste your time with this, and I know you can't get those few minutes back of your life. So, yes, first of all, terrible promotion for the lip product. After watching that, it makes me not want to watch or buy Burt's Bees. But secondly, like, this is not the way to go about raising funds, man. I don't know how much this lip treatment costs. It can't be that much. You earning a commission off of the lip balm, it's probably not going to get you moving. Is pretty expensive, especially to a different country. And I don't think that you're going to get enough money by selling or getting a commission on some of these Burt's Bees lipsticks. And it's so shameful. Panhandling. We need to make panhandling shameful again. It's unclear what rights he thinks that he's going to be obtaining when he moves to a different country outside of the United States. Here in this country, we have equal rights. Everybody has equal opportunity. And it's a great country. You can the left is trying to take those equal rights away and install equity, as we talked about earlier in the program. And they're going to try to provide you solutions and take away things from you in order to give them to somebody else. That's called Marxism, socialism, communism. But what this guy wants, why he wants to move, he wants special rights, okay? And he wants special rights, I'm sure, that would be at the expense of women's rights, okay? Where he wants to go into the bathrooms, the female bathrooms or the safe spaces of women. Title IX, ensures that women can compete against each other and not have this biological disadvantage against women or against men. So surely, I'm sure he wants special rights. That's what he's talking about here. He also claimed that his area that he resides in is relatively safe for trans people. This is a dumb statement because in the United States, trans people are safe and protected under the same laws as everyone else. Okay, and everything is fair, right? Remember, equal opportunity. And he implies, I guess, that there's this genocide going on, or that there could be transgenocide that happens, and that couldn't be further from the truth. As I told you, the homicide, I think last year, I think there was like about 30 transgender individuals who died via homicide. Okay. And when you break those homicides down, a lot of that stems from the prostitution occupation. A lot of these transgenders, they'll enter into that occupation and then their pimps hurt them or they overdose on drugs. That is a bulk of the trans deaths by homicide. Okay. Or they are given drugs by their pimp and then they're drugged up by their pimp and then they die that way. Okay. So there is a big issue with the suicide, but in the same breath, he admits here that it's not necessary for him to move. Okay. He says, quote, "I would rather not be here." Okay. In the United States. So I'm sure there's tons of average people who would rather live in Italy or Greece or somewhere beautiful, right? Not in Midwest Illinois, right? I'm sure there's plenty of you out there. But guess what? We don't beg for money to go move to the places that aren't a necessity to move to. Okay. We'd rather be, of course, I'd rather be in Florida, but it takes money to move and I'm not going to go out there and beg, right? For money that I don't need. So he's going out there and he's begging on TikTok for people to buy his chapsticks. And, he will never have as many rights as he does living in the United States everywhere. I mean, the UK, you don't have the right to free speech. Okay. In Iran, for being transgender, you'd be thrown off a roof, man. So he's never going to live anywhere that is better than the United States when it comes to rights. And, he wants you to affirm his indescribable feelings. And then he wants to move abroad, than actually live in reality. Okay. And if you don't affirm his indescribable feelings of him being a woman, he's going to move abroad. Okay. Rather than live in the reality that, hey, you're not a woman, you're a man. And you have this deranged, indescribable feeling. And you have to deal with that. Okay. So he would rather not live in reality. He wants to move abroad and run away from his problems. This is all nothing but a personal problem. I don't know why you'd go on TikTok and start promoting Burt's Bees and begging for money, essentially. All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We're going to be right back. I got to take a quick break. What's new, Kat? Whoa. Well, I'll tell you what's new. Coming up in just a little bit, we're going to get to AOC. AOC is saying that the border czar, okay, is Tom Homan is making our border less safe. Okay. I don't know if she heard, but like border crossings are down like by 90% or something like that. So I don't know if she's heard about that, but she's blaming Tom Homan for human trafficking now. None of it makes sense. It's a ludicrous claim, and AOC has run out of things to justify her stance on open borders at this point. So this is why she's decided to make up this claim about Tom Homan going on Fox News and how that is somehow correlated with higher human trafficking rates. I don't know. It's the most absurd thing I've ever heard a politician say. With a straight face. Okay, so we're going to get to that here in just a second. I do want to talk about Trump trying to get Hunter Biden killed. According to the left, that is what Trump is doing. However, everybody ignores the fact that children under the age of 16 get Secret Service details, okay? Secret Service details. So Trump, of course, ended the Secret Service detail for Hunter Biden. And then the left is out there saying, Biden and Ashley. Okay, Hunter and Ashley. So this is ridiculous. So Monday, President Donald Trump, now the left is out there screaming out to say that he's trying to kill Hunter Biden, which is ridiculous. Monday, President Donald Trump said he'd be revoking the Secret Service protection for Hunter and Ashley Biden, the children of former President Joe Biden, effective immediately. This comes after an independent reporter, her name is Laura Loomer. She revealed that Joe Biden traveled to South Africa. South Africa, by the way, known for their human rights atrocities. He traveled to South Africa with a Secret Service detail. Here's a quote that Donald Trump has on Truth Social. Hunter Biden has had Secret Service protection for an extended period of time, all paid for by the United States taxpayer. There has been as many as 18 people on his detail. This is ridiculous. He's currently vacationing, of all places, South Africa, where human rights of people have been questioned. Okay. Because of this, South Africa has been taken off of our countries, off of countries receiving economic and financial assistance. Okay, off of the list, economic and financial assistance, because of their human rights atrocities. South Africa. Okay, so he goes on. He says, please be advised, effective immediately, Hunter Biden will no longer receive Secret Service protection. Likewise, Ashley Biden, who has 13 agents, will be taken off of the list. Okay, so he posted this Truth Social. Under the law, I can't stress this enough, leftists. Are you listening? He's not killing Hunter Biden, okay? In fact, he's like, I don't even know how old Hunter Biden is. He's got to be ancient at this point. Let me look up Hunter Biden's age really quick. But under the law, 16. And he's 55, folks. Oh my. He's got plenty of money, folks, to go buy his own private security if he wants it, okay? So under the law, children of former presidents whom themselves receive a lifetime of Secret Service protection, former presidents receive lifetimes of Secret Service protection. So Joe Biden has Secret Service protection. They talked about revoking, by the way, Donald Trump's Secret Service protection, the left and Democrats. They were talking about revoking that for Donald Trump. Even, I think, after he had a couple of assassination attempts, or like talks of an or after the assassination attempt, they were calling for his protective detail to be taken from him. He's a former president. They tried to argue that because he was a convicted felon, he wasn't entitled to the Secret Service protection. Okay, so nobody like said people on the right, like we were outraged by that. But that was warranted because former presidents under the law have these protections for life. Okay. They're entitled to those protections for life, but the children don't. Okay. Only until they hit the age of 16. Sasha and Malia Obama, they're both in their mid-20s and they don't receive Secret Service protection anymore. Okay. They should be buying it themselves if they want it. Okay. According to Associated Press, both Trump and Biden extended Secret Service protections for their kids for 6 months after leaving office. Okay. During a tour. So Trump did that for Joe Biden when he left office, and Joe Biden did it for him. Now, the second go around, he's not doing it anymore for Hunter Biden, and he doesn't have to. Why? Because he's in South Africa and he's traveling and he's paying for all these flights for these 18 people, and he's on the 18 people on the detail. Like, it's getting expensive at this point. And, he's not doing it this time around. Trump was nice and he extended in the beginning. So 2016, after he left in 2020, he extended the Secret Service protections for the kids after the 6 months. Even Hunter Biden, who is 55 years old at this point, like 50 something years old. So during a tour of the Kennedy Center Monday afternoon, a reporter asked Donald Trump if he was going to revoke the former president's protection. Well, we've done that with many. I would say if there are the former president's child, Hunter Biden, he says we've done that with many. I would say if there are 18 with Hunter Biden, that is something that we have to look into this afternoon. So before he actually revoked the detail, he said, like, if there's 18 Secret Service members, people on his detail, then we need to look into that, because this is just wasting taxpayer dollars. This comes after Laura Loomer, she had revealed that Hunter Biden and his wife and their child, Beau, had traveled to Cape Town, South Africa, where they were shopping at these high-end stores, staying in this oceanside villa with Biden's Secret Service hotel. Okay, so this villa, I think it's like $500 a night or something like that. And he's having a big old vacation in South Africa, and you're paying for his detail to be there. Okay. The taxpayer. So I wanted to bring you that this morning. I do also want to get to AOC. Let's get to AOC. I'll get to AOC. So AOC, she's on one. I don't know if she's run out of things to say to justify her stance on open borders or what the heck is going on, but she decided to make this claim that Tom Homan appearing on Fox News is somehow correlated with high rates of human trafficking. And to call that the most absurd thing I've ever heard a politician say is an understatement. She said this with a straight face. Take a listen.
Every time you see Tom Homan on Fox News, every time you see Kristi Noem, every time you see these law enforcement officials doing flashy television interviews, understand that they are taking resources away from looking at human trafficking. They are taking attention and focus and real dollars and real resources away from actual drug enforcement, trafficking enforcement, actually going after and actually trying to investigate really harmful activity that is happening. And so it's harmful in every aspect.
What? I don't understand how she said this with a straight face, folks. You got to be kidding me. Has anybody told her that the border crossings are down by 90% since Donald Trump took office? I just can't deal with this level of stupidity. It's either she's blatantly lying or she's foolish. Both can be true, I suppose. Let's get to some of these Fox News interviews that she's talking about with Tom Homan. This is like the Fox News interviews that apparently are leading to, a rise in human trafficking and a diversion of resources.
The president's doing a great job. And I want to say this. Look, I worked for 6 presidents. I think President Trump's the greatest president of my lifetime. He proves it every day. Every day he proves to me why he is the greatest president of my lifetime. Border numbers are down over 90% in 3 weeks.
Think about that.
And I worked hard at it. Kristi Noem's working hard at it. The border, the chief of patrol is working hard at it. But it was President Trump's executive orders that was a game changer, right? So, and we already got over almost 16,000 people we arrested in the interior. That's 3 times more than Joe Biden had a year from now. But it's not enough. We got to do more. But President Trump's leadership, when you get 90% less people coming across the border, how many women aren't being raped by the cartels? How many children aren't drowning? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked in this country? President Trump's a game changer, and every day I've said it 100 times. Every day he proves to me why he's the greatest president of my lifetime. What he's done. And President's doing.
Okay, I'm having trouble seeing how this interview that I just played for you correlates to higher human trafficking rates, but I think we all know that it's because it's not contributing. Like, these interviews aren't contributing to human trafficking. I don't even know what she's talking about here, AOC. Border numbers are so low. She refuses to admit that, obviously. They're down by 90% since Donald Trump took office. $0 are being diverted from things like drug enforcement or human trafficking enforcement. In fact, quite the opposite. Resources are being dedicated to getting people out of our country who participate in things like drug trafficking and human trafficking. And, I don't remember her ever talking about the 148,000 children that went missing under the Biden administration. AOC, are you going to bring that up? Because it's disgusting that you're claiming that Tom Homan is contributing to human trafficking by, going on Fox News and doing these flashy interviews or whatever. But then you refuse to bring attention to the numbers here, the 148,000 children under the Biden administration who were lost. Actually, it was more than that. Tom Homan suggested the number was 320,000. I think it might be they've accounted for some of them at this point, so that's why that number has gone down. I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button. We're going to be right back. I want to share this number with you, the 320,000 missing children under the Biden administration. I think that they've accounted for most of them now, some of them. There's still 148,000 that appear to be lost. And there's this clip here that I want to share with you. Tom Homan raising an issue with that. And I love how AOC conveniently leaves this out of the human trafficking conversation. She doesn't talk about this. She says that Tom Homan's interviews somehow are correlated to human trafficking. I don't even understand that. This is just a level of stupidity I really can't deal with. But we're going to play that, and then we're also going to talk a little bit maybe about Bloomington City Council. If he had missed that, there was a public commenter who called Mboka Mwambwe indecisive. I was shocked by this. So I don't think that he's going to get left or even left of center votes, Mboka. And I don't know if Dan Brady was ever going to get those votes. I know he's probably going to get the center or maybe even left of center votes. And maybe the people on the right as well and right of center. I think that he'd be able to obtain that left of center vote. Now it's going to be tough, I'm sure, because there's mailers out there with with a MAGA hat. But it's really interesting how this election might play out. I don't think that people are going to go for the moderate choice. I think that we are in a divisive time, and being that President Donald Trump did so well, but he did better in McLean County this last election cycle than he did the previous in 2016. He did well in 2020 or 2024, and he did better than in 2020. Okay, in 2020. And in 2016, he did better in 2024 in this area. I wouldn't be shocked if the MAGA hat actually, the mailers with the MAGA hat with Dan Brady actually serve him in this election, considering the hype around Donald Trump at this point. There are a lot of people, a lot of these traditionally apolitical individuals who are on these podcasts and they listen to the independent journalist, and they've tuned out completely out of CNN and the leftist mainstream media, and they've tuned that out completely. And I really do think that there's more of that, apolitical, like the left has gone too far. The $24 million for the public library, the left has gone too far, where they spend money on downtown Bloomington streetscape and not our water and treating our water, And I think that people will begin to wake up in Bloomington and realize, hey, we need to, put a choice on there that hasn't neglected the treating the water for 20 plus years. So we're going to get to that, but smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I got to take a quick break. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Yes, until tomorrow morning, we're under a wind advisory. We could be seeing some strong winds. Maybe go outside, secure your outdoor objects, your grills, your outdoor sofas. Gusty winds. Now, this is in effect until 7 a.m. on Thursday. Okay, so southeast winds 20 to 30 miles per hour with gusts getting up to 50 miles per hour. So stay safe out there. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Tom Homan and, AOC's negligence to really bring up the 148,000 children who are missing and have been missing under the Biden administration. Now, the number was higher than that, and I think that they've accounted for some of those children under the Trump administration, and that's why the number is lower. But take a listen to Tom Homan talking about this 320,000 number, and AOC saying that Tom Homan is the reason why there's human trafficking going on because he's going on Fox News or whatever. He's diverting resources from these issues. No, I don't know how you jump from him doing Fox News interviews to him being the reason why human trafficking rates are so high. Take a listen.
I want to add one more thing. You talk about the child sex crimes. Under Kamala Harris, we have over 500,000 children have been smuggled into the United States, separated from their families, smuggled by criminal cartels, and released in the United States. That's her failure as a border czar. And let me add this. They've released these people to so-called sponsors. They don't vet properly. Now they can't find 148,000 children or their sponsors. And I guarantee you, based on my 3.5 decades of investigative experience, these children are in forced labor or they're in forced sex trade and they're living a life of hell. This administration, what they've done on the border is disgusting. I want to add one more thing.
Okay. So likely the reason that AOC doesn't want Tom Homan getting on Fox News and talking about this kind of stuff is because people are going to start to realize how much of a failure the left actually is. One more clip. Here we go. Take a listen to this. Here we go.
I always hear all the time, family separation, Homan's the godfather, family separation. Let me be clear. Zero tolerance is about saving lives. But we figure we start prosecuting people who violate the law and put the children in harm's way, maybe they stop coming. And they did. Numbers went down. It's unfortunate families got separated. But it happens to American families every day. It's going to happen in Albany today that American family will be separated by law enforcement because the child can't go to jail with the parent. But we want to talk about family separation? 500,000 children on Joe Biden were trafficked into this country. They can't find 300,000 of them. That's a separation. But you know what President Trump's committed? We're going to find them and we're going to save them because many of these children are in forced labor, many of these children are in forced sex slavery. We're going to save them. This administration.
I love it. All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat. We're going to wrap up this story here on the other side. Cities 92.9. Yeah. So I'm kind of confused about the 148,000 number. From what I understand, they found some of these children. It was at 500,000, and then they found some of these children and accounted for some of these children. And really what AOC, she doesn't want him to go out there on Fox News and talk about this because people are going to start to realize what a failure the left actually is. I've got one more clip for you. This is voter czar Tom Homan talking about the cartels and the child molesters and how they literally rent children at the border. Now, under the Biden administration, it was 300,000 and 500,000. Currently, there's 148,000 children missing. Take a listen to this. We're going to take a listen to this. Here we go.
Large groups of kids, 50 plus children, they're unaccompanied. You take them in, you have to give them over to the NGOs. The NGOs call somebody to come pick them up. They either pick them up or they fly them into the area where but the NGOs is just a regular individual, a regular employee. So they're not checking to see if that whoever's taking that child is really, a relative or anything to do with that.
And there's been many investigations where some of these children are actually rented by the cartels. If you come with a child, you're not going to be detained, right? So the family groups won't be detained. So they'll rent a child to a male adult, use this child, get across the border, be released. Then the child goes back and be re-rented. Who knows what happens to that child and whose possession they're putting that child in?
Yeah, I've had border guards tell me, I've seen this child come through here 5 or 6 times. I recognize this child.
No, and there's been instances where you've had individuals that come across with a minor and say that it's their child. And when you run their fingerprints, they have a prior detention or they've been detained in another state for some type of child molestation.
Wow. Okay, so we're gonna play that. Obviously, AOC doesn't want you to see this video. She doesn't want you to hear what's actually going on, and she hopes Americans will stay naive. And she claims that bringing attention to this actually hinders the efforts. No, I think that shining a light on this stuff and going on Fox News and doing these interviews, that is actually helping these efforts of combating human trafficking. So it couldn't be further from the truth, but that shining a light on this is bad in some sort of way. And it's rather telling that she wants to keep this kind of stuff in the dark, and she doesn't want Tom Homan to go out there and talk about it. We will be back here in just a second. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I'll be right back. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk pollution normal. Man, we covered a lot of ground this morning. I'm going to get to one more clip about AOC saying that Tom Homan going on Fox News talking about the human trafficking and things that are going on at the border. 300 to 500,000 children missing under the Biden administration. Him going on Fox News talking about that. That's not contributing to that problem. I think that's shining light on a problem and bringing awareness to a problem so that way we can fix it. And it's concerning that AOC would rather him not do that and keep all of these issues in the dark. What did we talk about this morning? Illinois. Could we be forced to vote? Yes, a bill is seeking to have Illinois join Australia and other countries in compulsory voting practices. We also talked about Democrats not supporting repealing the Trust Act. We talked about the Trust Act and the legal interpretation of it, and if law enforcement can work with federal authorities on carrying out deportation orders. We also talked about District 87 and a video that staff was required to watch during their DEI trainings. It was a cartoon drawing explaining the differences between equality and equity, code words explaining the difference between capitalism and Marxism and socialism, communism. And they're trying to get the teachers to subscribe to Marxism. Therefore, the teachers are going to then try to get the kids to subscribe to Marxism. And the kids, they're probably not going to school, 27% absenteeism rate. They're probably not going to school because they're being fed this garbage. And kids are naturally capitalists. They like to solve their own problems and create their own solutions. They don't want solutions handed to them. They want to think for themselves. I do want to play this clip. This is definitely a video AOC doesn't want you to see here.
Large groups of kids, 50 plus children, they're unaccompanied. You take them in, you have to give them over to the NGOs. The NGOs call somebody to come pick them up. They either pick them up or they fly them into the area where some, but the NGOs is just a regular individual, a regular employee. So they're not checking to see if that whoever's taking that child is really, a relative or anything to do with that.
And there's been many investigations where some of these children are actually rented by the cartels. If you come with a child, you're not going to be detained, right? So the family groups won't be detained. So they'll rent a child to a male adult, use this child, get across the border, be released. Then the child goes back and be re-rented. Who knows what happens to that child and whose possession they're putting that child in?
Yeah, I've had border guards tell me, I've seen this child come through here 5 or 6 times. I recognize this child.
No, and there's been instances where you've had individuals that come across with a minor and say that it's their child. And when you run their fingerprints, they have a prior detention or they've been detained in another state for some type of child molestation.
Yeah, this is just so sad. And here's the thing, folks. AOC doesn't want you to see these types of clips. She doesn't want you to hear this information about how, there were 500,000 children missing under the Biden administration, because then you will catch on. You will realize that the left is a failure. They are failing at this, and she's hoping that you stay naive. And I don't know how she can claim that bringing attention to human trafficking, Tom Homan bringing attention to human trafficking is somehow hindering the efforts of combating it. I just don't understand how she could make that. It's so far from the truth. And it's rather telling when you have politicians out there wanting to keep this kind of stuff in the dark. Right. You guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. I love you. Go ahead and find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble, and subscribe. Type it in your search bar, Cities 92.9 Conservative Cat. And give us a like on Facebook, follow us, and head on over to our website, cities99.com. We always have these really cool deals. It's called Steals and Deals. You just click on the link or click on the logo. It says Steals and Deals, and then you can start getting all of these really cool gift certificates for half off. And in this economy, I mean, Epic Burger, $25 or $20 gift certificate. It's going for half off right now for $10. Totally something you want to jump on. We have on-track car wash, rainstorm car wash. Check it out, cities929.com. Click on the Steals and Deals logo. Bye-bye. I love you. Have a blessed rest of your day.